morning. Hello and welcome back, folks. Happy Monday to you. Hope you've been good. I hope you had a good weekend. Did everything you wanted to, rested up, feeling good, all of that fun stuff. But today we are back to our regular schedule, mostly regular. We'll be doing a Q&A today, and then a no stream on Wednesday, as I will be at a work event. And then we will be back to Fantasy Map Friday, this Friday. Back to it as per usual. But until then, folks, it is Ask Away Monday. Ask an author any question you have. I am happy to talk about it. Be it about books, writing, publishing, the publishing industry, any of that fun stuff, please do ask away. I am here for you for the next hour to answer your questions, help you out any way I can, and I don't know, just hang out, start our week off right, huh? It's gonna be a busy one here. I got a very advanced writing schedule today, starting this week, and for pretty much the rest of the year. So the majority of my time will be in the word mines, as we like to say. Just riding that keyboard jockey that I am. And it's going to be fun, though. That's what I want to do. But before that starts, this is Ask an Author Anything. So please, if you have questions about writing, books, publishing, the publishing industry, anything like that, please ask away. I'm here for you. Some dude, you said, I love to be back in the stream, and you're writing right now, coincidentally. Hey, man, rock and roll. That's what I want to hear. How's it been going? I hope the writing has been smooth, productive, exciting, challenging, perhaps. Let me know. Random Car Edits. Do I know anything about making games or publishing them? Not particularly. I've never published one. I have really not done much in that industry aside from consume the games. So I apologize, my friend, but no, video game publishing, video game creation, a little bit outside my wheelhouse. Balak to Spicaswo? Call you Balak. You said, do you know anything about world building? Yeah, for sure. I do a lot of that for my job. What questions do you have about world building? Happy to talk about it. Charlie, you said thoughts on film adaptations. I don't need them to be one for one. I just need them to have an angle, passion, and to respect the source material. I think if you do that, the fans are going to be mostly happy with whatever you choose to do. Shadow, you said, how do I come up with character ideas? A mix of ways. Sometimes I will pull an actor that I like, that is very distinct, and I'll use them as an inspiration for the character. Other times I might need a character to serve a certain role in the book, and so I'll come up with a personality that fits that role but makes it a little bit unique as well, give them a little twist. The cardinal rule for characters is make me love them, make me hate them, just don't bore me with them. So as long as you're doing that, you're doing good. Other name, thank you for the heart, me, my guy. Re-up in the stream team, I appreciate you. Welcome in, buddy. How you been, man? How you been? Harry, have I ever read nonfiction? I have, yeah. Occasionally. Mostly like history pieces, a little bit of poetry, stuff like that. It's always fun. Sprinkle it in. Mate HJ on Video App, my friend. Good to see you. Welcome in. How you doing, man? A ton of questions here. Let me get to them. Random Car Edits, how did the map go? It went well, although I got sick on Wednesday and Friday, which was I was actually down for the count pretty bad, so I didn't get to work on it those days. So I'm excited to make that up this Friday. It'll be good. Kevin, you said if you were to post your writings online, is there a point in working to get it published? Well, it depends on if that's what you want, Kevin. If you want to publish, then yeah, you should post online. Or submit it to the publisher that you want, query literary agents, whatever route of publishing you're looking to go. Web novels are quite valid as well. But yeah, if you want people to read your writing, you got to post it, or work with a publisher to get it out there. How do I make my maps? Asked Hayes. I use Incarnate. It is an online map maker. It's pretty good. A lot of fun. Anime Engineer Takes. It's a fun name. You said, if people seem to have an interest in my power system, should I lean more into it, or is it a trap? No, if people are liking it and you're excited to make it, then rock and roll. Keep it rolling. Nothing wrong with that at all. Jordan, you said, how do you write a book or WTV or whatever, okay, and not feel like you're just copying someone. So I see this a lot in beginning authors, beginning writers. Don't worry about copying someone. The truth is, every creator, tripping over the words big time, every creative is the sum of their influences and experiences. We can't help being influenced by content. Obviously, don't steal someone's, chapter structure exactly or their characters exactly, but if you're inspired by them and you create your own thing, nothing wrong with that at all. I would say don't worry about it. If you're worrying about the fact that you might be copying someone too closely, that means you're probably in a place where you're not doing that. Like, you care about not just like plagiarizing someone, and that's often enough to not do it. The folks that plagiarize often do it intentionally. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Balatro over on Video App. Hello. Good to see you. Balak, you said, what are your tips or overall guide to world building? My tips are there's two ways to go about it. You can create the story first and then build the world to fit it, or you can build the world and make the story take place in it, work through it that way. But for world building, really, is just do things you're interested in and can speak to from lived experience. For instance, I grew up in the swamps of Central Florida. You'll notice my books often take place in hot environments, have a lot of sweaty characters, will feature swamps more prominently than they will, a magic forest, etc. So have fun with it, do what you know, but you have to be excited in what you're doing in order to make it good. SLM said, hi from Sweden. What genre are your books? Well, hello, SLM. My books are here. They are fantasy and lit RPG. Those are my two genres. Fantasy up top, lit RPG down below. If you want to check any of them out, they are linked in my bio. Please do. They're available pretty much anywhere books are sold. And exciting news, y'all. I have nothing I can say officially yet, but there will be a lot more books coming this year. We have a lot of work on the calendar. We got publishers lined up. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Wrong Guy said, what happens when goblins decide not to be fodder for new adventurers anymore? Well, I guess it depends on the goblins. Depends on what they want to do. Not to be too self-promo-y, but my most recent book it does feature goblins quite heavily, and I suppose these have decided that instead of being adventurer or fodder, they'd rather go on their own adventure. It's very silly. Check it out if you want. Let's see what else we got going on here. If I missed your question, y'all, please ask again, and I will try to get to it. I do want to answer them all. They just come by too quick sometimes. Hold on. There was a good one that just scrolled away. Patrick Ritchie said, always wondered, how does publishing work? Do you pay for printing books, etc.? Or does the publisher? So it depends on your type of publishing, Patrick. If you are self-publishing, then you're going to release your book through various websites that would publish your book. And TikTok doesn't want me to say the names. And you would have commissioned your cover from an artist. You would, if you want an audiobook, you would either pay to have that made, or you might try to sell your audio rights to a publisher. Basically, in self-publishing, you are paying most of the cost. If you did traditional publishing, you would have submitted your manuscript to a literary agent. If they think it's good and want to work with you, they will pick up your manuscript, they will workshop it with you, and then both of you would pitch it to publishers who would pay you in advance to acquire it and then publish it that way, and they would pay most of the publishing costs. Similarly, I don't know, I said that wrong. If you went with a small press publisher, they also would pay the publishing costs, but you might get less of an advance going that way. It's kind of a smaller, lower budget process, but no less valid. Long story short, self-pub, you're paying for it. If you're going with a publisher, someone else is paying for it. Let's see. Tarnished, you said, why are most things being written today spicy and not just borderline? I think that there's still probably like borderline or closed door romances out there. But yeah, spicy stuff's having a moment for sure. Definitely blowing up right now. Dootlag, you said I look like if Asmongold and Godus had a baby. I don't know Godus, but I do know Asmongold. And if you're a regular stream viewer, you know what time it is. We had a mention, so up goes the counter. 103. We hit 100 last week on it. Welcome in, Dootlag. Good to see you, buddy. Goat boy, my hair's on upside down. That's pretty funny. Tim Wagner says, how does your work differ from your writing? Haven't read you, but I love the way you speak. Well, thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. You said, how does my work differ from my writing? I'm not sure what you mean. My writing is my work, so I'm a full-time author, producing, if I can find them, these books full-time. I am writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 more this year. It's going to be a big year writing-wise. So if you wanted to pick up any of these now and start reading how the story's gone so far, feel free. These are the book ones. They each have their own series, and they're linked in my bio. Feel free to check them out if you want. But we got a lot more coming this year. It's going to be good. Oh, Tim, you meant how does my writing differ from my speaking? It just kind of differs book to book, I suppose. Depends on who the main character is. For instance, this one over here is more of a serious book. So it's a little more epic in scope and tone, whereas this one is incredibly goofy and from the perspective of goblins, so you can imagine they might not be as well spoken as your average human. So it just differs book to book. Carney, you said, I wish I had the mental strength to write an actual book. I have a 20K word lore document, lore Bible for now. Carney, the good news for you is you don't have to start with writing a book. A whole book right off the bat. Think of it like running a marathon. You don't just, get off the couch and go run a marathon. You got to work up to it. I think writing a novel is similar. I think you start with short stories. You write longer stories from there, and then you work your way up to a book. So just try to start with short stories for now. And you can submit them to short story contests. Any reputable one will be free and potentially win awards or recognition. Miss Nabs said, kinda silly, but I love writing and can never get motivation to start or get there. Any tips? Don't worry about Cthulhu. You said just leave the books in my background. Okay, I'll leave them there for a minute. Miss Nabs, I would say don't worry about struggling to write. Don't put pressure on yourself. Just sit down and have some fun with it. Try to see if there's a scene, just one scene that you want to write. Maybe a chapter. Start small. Don't put pressure on yourself because the pressure ruins the creativity. Try to allow yourself to just exist and have fun in the space that you're going to be in, and see if that comes about better. King Connor, you said, what do I write? Oh, well, I just had it up, but I'll put it up here. I write lit RPG and fantasy. Fantasy up top, lit RPG down below, and they are all linked in my bio if you want to check them out. They're available pretty much anywhere books are sold. Username is just a period. Said, how do you get ideas for your books? Basically, I brainstorm for them a lot of this. I'll just kind of come up with something that I think is interesting. Often, so here's the most common way that I get ideas. When I am working on one book, takes a long time, takes 2 months to 4 months, depending on the book. I get tons of other story ideas that I'm motivated to work on, but I gotta force myself to stay on the one I'm working on. So what I do is I write those crazy ideas down in a folder, and then whenever I'm looking for a new book, I go back to that folder and see which ideas still resonate with me after all that time. That's one way I do it, but it's kind of different for everybody, Everybody's got their own process for it. Twisted Logic, you asked, how do I publish my books? Most of mine are through small presses, Portal Books, Podium Publishing. I've done a bit of work with Audible, etc., etc. A couple of mine are self-pub. Basically, I have a series of publishers I work with, and if none of them think my book is particularly marketable or doesn't fit what the industry is looking for, but I'm excited to write it anyway, I'll go ahead and write it myself and just self-publish it. Orman, what do I think about audiobooks? I love them. I think they're great. They open up your writing to a whole new audience. I think it's really useful. Chloe, any advice for the outlining process? For outlining, this is a personal thing. Some people like to really go through every chapter, super detailed notes. Some folks don't outline at all. They just start writing and see where the story goes. I tend to be somewhere in between. I like to have a bullet point to 3 bullet points per chapter, but no more than that, so that I know where the narrative's going. And I can kind of like at the beginning of the day, pull up my outline and go, okay, I'm writing this today. And then I kind of just like creatively take it from there. Some of my best ideas come in the moment, so I like to be free to come up with ideas on the fly while having a general guideline for where I'm going. That being said, I found for most folks, this is something you got to try out. You got to see if you like it, like really detailed planning, if you like to just go by the seat of your pants, or if you're somewhere in between. Try it, try all 3, and see where you land. D, you said which one of my books is my fave, and which do I recommend you start with? I would say this is probably my favorite of my books. It's comedy fantasy. It's very goofy. It has a sequel coming out this year, but this one has 2 sequels coming out this year. So take your pick between those 2. If you want serious, dark, action-packed, go with Servant of Rage. If you want goofy, lighthearted goblins on an adventure, go with Wriggly Little Hands. Thank you for asking. Lag, you said, do I have a Discord server with people that are into writing where I could share things for feedback? I do have a Discord. It's linked in my bio if you want to join. Community Discord server. We do a little bit of writing share and whatnot. I can't guarantee there'll be feedback, but there's some nice folks in there, and they do like to support each other. And whenever I have time, I like to come in and see what I can contribute as well. But it does take a long time to give feedback, and it's pretty busy writing. But yeah, you're welcome to join. We'd love to have you. Bertu God said, how much do you earn total? So it varies year to year. I've had years where I've earned 6 figures from writing. I've had years where I've earned $20,000 from writing. It varies. It's averaging, I've been doing this since 2018 full-time. I'm averaging around $40,000 to $50,000 a year as a full-time writer, full-time author. Like I said, goes up and down depending on the year. And we're always trying to grow that income, but for the most part, that's where I've averaged. Chloe, you said, is 115,000 words too much for a fantasy novel? No, I don't think so. That's spot on. Fantasy novels run long. They tend to be around 100,000 words or more. 115, I think, is totally fine. I wouldn't go much beyond that if it's your first book. Debut authors don't get as much of a leash for making their books longer or shorter. So you kind of have to prove yourself with a book that's within the acceptable range. And I think 100,000 to 120,000 is fine for starting fantasy. Again, y'all, I apologize if I don't get to your question. Please ask it again so I can answer it, because I do want to. They just scroll too fast sometimes. David, you said you never understood "Don't judge a book by its cover." The art is amazing. Yeah, it's kind of a flawed saying. The reality is that we do judge books by their cover, and honestly, from an author point of view, my cover is the first thing that readers are going to see, and it's my first hook to get you into the book. The title's the second one, and that my opening line's the third. Those are things I think a lot about when I think about selling books. The cover's got to catch your eye, the title has to keep you interested, and the first line's got to sell you on the story. So yeah, I agree. It's true. Hunger Games or Divergent, says Nuts 13.5. Hunger Games. I think Suzanne Collins is a brilliant author, and she writes books when she has something to say, and I respect that there's a message and an intent to her writing, on top of just incredibly good storytelling. I enjoyed Divergent too. Not as much by any means, but Hunger Games for sure. What about you, though? Fane1C said, I wanted to ask, have you ever thought mid-story, maybe your story just isn't it? Okay, this is a good question, Fane. I'll try not to go too long on this. Basically, I found every author has a point, percentage-wise, through the length of their story, where they stop believing in it. This is some like evil creativity trick that affects everybody. I don't understand it, but I like have talked with several of my author friends long enough as they're working on books that I know what point of the book they start to have doubts at every time. For me, it's at the 80% mark. I hit 80% of my book and I'm like, this story is terrible. I hate it. I don't want to write this anymore. I should do something else. Don't listen to it. Push through to the end of the story. I guarantee you that feeling will fade. And then once the book is written, leave it for 2-3 weeks and then come back to it fresh and reread the section you thought was bad. I guarantee you're not going to think it's as bad as you did. It happens all the time. I always see it. I don't understand why, but it does. Gordo, you said my Warden book looks cool. Well, thank you, my man. Here, I'll pull the cover up nice and big for you. That's actually my most successful book to date. It's the first in a trilogy. Feel free to check it out if you want. I always loved the purple in this cover. It's very cool toned. It's very fun. Ooh, here's a good one. Kale Locksnicks said, how do I make good character development? So character development is about making your character different at the end of the book than they were at the beginning, and often different for the better. There are what we call negative change arcs for characters where they get worse. That's harder to pull off. There are neutral change arcs where they don't change at all, but instead they change the world around them. But the most common arc, the most common character growth, is positive change arcs. And that means that your character gets better as the book goes on. The lessons they learn on their adventure make them a better, stronger person. The way you do that is identify who your character is at the beginning, what their weakness is, and then who you want them to be at the end, and how they're going to overcome that weakness. And then the story is them learning the lessons they must learn to overcome that weakness and become a better, stronger person. And often, the plot of the story, the final conflict, cannot be solved until the character has had that revelation that makes them better and stronger and wiser, and that allows them to triumph in the climax. It all kind of ties in together. Ella May, you said, are you friends with other authors? Yeah, I'm friends with a couple. Acquaintances with a lot, friends with a couple. We all kind of support each other on the back end, you know. It's kind of part of the job. Writing is lonely work, so it's nice to have other folks that get it you can talk to on the daily. Cthulhu, what do you think about incorporating AI in your work? I don't use it personally. I am not a fan. I like to say I got into writing because I love the act of writing and creating stories and worlds. I don't want a computer to do it for me. Plus, I have ethics concerns with how most AI datasets were gathered. I know for a fact all of my books, except maybe the newest one, but it's coming, have been stolen and used to train AI without me getting any sort of money or even permission asked, anything from it. So I'm not exactly fond of that. Nuts, you said favorite and least favorite trope. Favorite trope? I love a good, like, Magic Academy story. I don't know why. I'm just a sucker for it. Least favorite trope? Unnecessary romance plotlines. I am by no means against romance in stories, but I don't like it when it's just thrown in. I think it should be a meaningful part of the story. Baron's question is, can you believe it's not butter? Peace Matt, this is an interesting question. You said, what if your story has a different form of storytelling that's largely unorthodox to the genre? So, can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. A lot of readers come into a genre, to a type of story, with expectations. And if those expectations aren't met, they will feel unsatisfied and they'll say they didn't enjoy the story. So, an unorthodox storytelling methodology might be novel and new, or it might leave readers dissatisfied. You kind of are taking a gamble, and you don't know where it's going to fall, but I think the easy way to determine what to do is if you feel creatively inspired and like this unorthodox storytelling format is important and meaningful to you, go for it. If you want to appeal to the broadest set of readers, you should be writing right down the middle of your genre. Readers, by and large, want things that they expect to see in the book, and genre helps us know what to expect to see. Fantasy, you're expecting to see swords and sorcery, magic and dragons, etc. Romance, you're expecting to see romance. But if someone goes into a romance book and instead they get dragons and swords and sorcery and no romance, they're probably not going to be as happy, right? So just know you can do unorthodox things if they are creatively interesting to you, but you risk alienating a large percentage of readers in your genre. Aristofa, you said, what's better, Magic Academy, Wizarding World, or Discworld? Discworld for sure. I'm a massive Terry Pratchett fan. Highlander on Video App, you said fiction or nonfiction. I'm a fiction fan, but I enjoy a good nonfiction here and there, but it's probably a 10-to-1 ratio for my reading. Simp, you said, who's your favorite author? Probably Joe Abercrombie. If not him, Terry Pratchett or Michael Crichton. Those are kind of my top three. Here, I'll pull it up real quick. You can see my bookshelf up on the very, very top. I can't get my finger up there. Those are my favorite of all books of all time. Those three shelves up top. Thank you for the follows, by the way. And thank y'all. You just purchased Warden. Thank you, my man. I appreciate that. Gordatron, I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think. Thank you. I appreciate you. Let's see. Fella, why do you think authors like Stephen King work way faster than authors like George R.R. Martin? A good question. I think it's because writing is inherently a creative endeavor, and it is hard to make creativity a standardized process. Some people are just better at it for any number of reasons. It could be anything from they're just better at saying, well, this isn't exactly the creative vision I had in my head, but it's close enough so I can keep pushing on, to they just write faster. I've found that some people just have a higher capacity of words per day that they can write and not burn out mentally, because that is the challenge in writing. Too much volume of words burns you out mentally, not so much physically, but the mental burnout is rough. So Stephen King might just be more accepting of the words that I have written are not exactly what I wanted creatively, but they're good enough. I'll keep moving. Maybe he's better at that than George R.R. Martin is, or perhaps he's just better at, he has a higher word per day capacity. Anything like that. But the long and short of it is, it's hard to standardize creativity. I mean, I've written over, I don't know, probably 2 million words. I've had over 2 million words published now, if I had to guess. I still struggle book to book with, keeping the writing consistent. It's always a challenge to standardize creativity. Rain, you said, how and when do you use this? And the icon you put in there, it's an M dash, the longer dash, not a little hash. I use M dash to signify interrupted speech. So if a character is cut off mid-sentence, I will cut off at the end of a word or in the middle of a word with an M dash. Or if a thought is interrupted, I might use it. My favorite usage of it will be to interrupt a line of thought for another little thought in the middle, like a thought within a thought. But it's there's just different ways to use it. That's how I prefer, personally. Could I write a 500-page book in 61 days? Asks Hanson. Well, pages are a bad way to count book length because the page format changes based on if it's a paperback, a hardback, an ebook, an audiobook, etc. So we tend to measure in words. A 500-page book would probably, in a standard like 5x8 sized paperback, I'm guessing 500 pages would come out to around 130,000 words. Could I write that in 61 days? Absolutely. For reference, I write 100,000 words every 2 to 2.5 months. So I could probably do a 500-page book in about 2.5 to 3 months, would be my guess. Robert Ducky. What 3 genres are your go-to for both reading and writing? And Video App. There's a couple questions over there I missed. I apologize. I'll get to those in a moment. Robert Ducky, I prefer, for reading and writing, fantasy, comedy fantasy, and slightly darker fantasy, verging on grim dark, with a little bit of like tech thriller thrown in, Michael Crichton-esque stuff. So those would be my 3 go-to. Fantasy, comedy fantasy, and kind of grim dark / tech thriller. So yeah. What about you, Robert? Let me know. Ebach Arc over on Video App said, I'm subscribed. You're a solid dude. When you write, where do you write from? Oh, and thank you by the way. I appreciate that. When you write, where do you write from? I like to say all media forms say the same thing. Live in the moment, experience. Do your stories support this? I think the message in my books differs book to book. But, I think the most beautiful thing about writing is that I have an intent for what I put into the story, but the readers may understand and agree with that intent. They may interpret it completely differently, and seeing those different interpretations is the magic of writing, in my opinion. I have a very structured, intentional thought as in my head as I am writing something down in the book, but in the space between the reader reading that on the page and thinking about it, imagining it in their imagination, it can change. And I think that that's pretty freaking cool. I'm a huge fan of that. Good question, Ebok, and welcome in, my man. Appreciate having you. Any tips on expanding vocabulary? Asked Aiden. Okay, vocabulary is something that gets brought up a lot. I think there's a misconception that folks think that you need to have a big vocabulary to be an author. Realistically, what you need to be able to do is communicate effectively with your readers. That doesn't necessarily mean having a big vocabulary. It means having an approachable vocabulary. If you want to expand your vocabulary for yourself, I think it's as easy as opening the dictionary 2 to 3 times a day. Go to like a dictionary website and just do randomize, find a random word, and functionally just read the dictionary. That being said, another way to do it is just read a lot of books. You'll come across words as you do it, and if you come across any words that you don't know, look them up. I think that's a great way to do it. Another chatter on Video App whose name is in Hangul, Sang Songju. Welcome in, Songju. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Annyeonghaseyo. Nuts, you said fave Hunger Game book. I do have Sunrise on the Reaping sitting on the shelf behind me. I need to read that one. But favorite so far, I liked book 2 of the original trilogy. I think that'd be my favorite. I like book 1 though too. I like Beginnings. What about you? Let me know. It's a hard pick. Y'all, thank you for the follows. Thank you for the questions. Let's keep them rolling. And if you don't know, I'm author Alex Knight. I write full time, but a couple days a week I stream for you for an hour or so. And today we're doing AMA essentially. So if you got questions about reading, writing, books, publishing, ask away. Mirza Azar, I'm a writer myself. Is it okay I write you a DM, some questions with some specifics? Feel free. Yeah, feel free. I can't guarantee that I will reply quickly, but I always do my best to reply, and I'm always happy to answer questions. If you want, you can also go to my website, linked in my bio, and shoot me an email through the contact form. Might be better than just a DM, but let me know. I'm happy to answer. Ella May. What is your first book that you bought, and what is your first book that you made? Boy, I don't know the first book I bought. That would be going back way long ago. But I'll go with first book I can fondly remember, and it was probably the Dragonlance Chronicles by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. Huge fan of those books even to this day. And my first book that I made was Warden, right down here. This was my first published book. So yeah. Kobe1 Kenobi said, Mr. Author, what writer is the greatest world builder? Brandon Sanderson, obviously infamously good with world building. That's probably who I would go with. I don't know though. George R. R. Martin is really good at world building. His world building really stands out. I'm gonna go with Martin, even though he hasn't finished his books, much to the chagrin of all of us. But I think his world building is amazing. White Beanie, you said, is your story done? Well, a lot of them are. Here's a lot of my books. They're linked in my bio if you want to check them out. It's fantasy up top, lit RPG down below. But I'm working on more now. I'll have another book finished by the end of this month. We're hurtling toward that deadline. Oh, God. But yeah, we'll keep the work rolling. Sam, what's the most inspiring book that I would recommend? I don't know. I don't read a lot of inspiring books. I think inspiration is kind of a personal thing. I'm going to say Born to Run, if you haven't read it. Folks have been asking about nonfiction. That's a good nonfiction book that made me like running which was weird because I don't. But that book really got me into it, and I started doing like distance running after reading it. So try Born to Run. I'm blanking on the author name. Let me pull it up real quick. Born to Run by Christopher McDougall. I love footy, as in football, I imagine, said, I don't know if you watch anime or read manga, but what's your opinion on One Piece and the story? I love that One Piece is so accessible to so many people. I think it's awesome when a work of fantasy can appeal to a large audience, and One Piece does that very, very well. One of the most successful, I think, of all time for that. And I really love that. It's approachable. It's interesting. I think it's a good introduction to the world of fantasy for a lot of people, and I appreciate that. Your name is just the symbol for pi. I forget what it's called in Greek. It's been too long since I studied Greek, but the symbol for pi. You said, bro, what makes an S? I do not know what you mean. That, I guess. Siri, you said running. I feel pain already. Yeah, sometimes. Unusual chemistry. What are some different ways to write a person starting a journey without a family member dying? Ooh, okay, I like this question. Chemistry. What you're looking for is the inciting incident, the call to adventure for your main character. It's very common that it begins with somebody dying because that person dying is often the protector or the mentor character or the caretaker of the main character, and without them, they are forced into the world on their own. There is no reason to stay where they are anymore. They should instead embrace the world of the story. I think what you need for interesting ways to get a character started on a story is to give them a reason that they want to or are compelled to go out on an adventure. Something in their world must change. The way this is described and plotting is that there is the world the character knows, the world they've been living in, the world they are in now, world being a loose term. It means the town they stay in or the life they are used to. And then there is the world of the adventure. This is what changes everything and pulls them out of their comfort zone. You know, the small hamlet they've been living in for their first 18 years of their life, whatever. That's where they've been. In order to get them into an adventure, you need something that pulls them out of that world or entices them out of that world. Depends on the sort of motivation you like. Do you want them forced out, or do you want them to go out because they're pursuing something they want? Basically, to summarize a lot of words, you need to give them a reason to leave the world they know and embrace the world of adventure. Sung Moon, good to see you. Welcome in and happy Monday. How you been? It's been a minute. Mainly because I have been sick and missing streams, but we're back now. Buttered Circuit said, how difficult is it to self-publish? It's not easy. Okay. Let me put it this way. It is easy to self-publish. It is hard to get sales. Self-publishing, very easy to do. You go to, you write your book, you get it edited, you get a cover, you convert it to the correct format, and then you publish it through any number of self-publishing websites. And then it's out there in the world and it can be bought. The problem is there's a lot of books out there. It's very hard to distinguish yourself from the others because there's so many books being published each day. So it's easy to self-publish and it's hard to get sales. One of the big advantages of going with a publisher is that they will help, on some level, sell your book. They'll get attention on it. Fool, how far do you plan your stories, plotline-wise? I plan them from start to finish, but only loosely. Just a couple bullet points for each chapter to give me a guideline to move through the story, but it allows enough room for me to do creative twists as I go. Because I often come up with my best ideas in the moment while writing, so I always leave space for that. Lover's Tea, you said, how would you make a character become depressed in your story, but also can it work in films? That'd be a tough one. I would give them a dramatic, shocking change to the world that they've known, and probably not a good one, by and large. I would also probably take away hope or block their ability to see or feel hope, honestly. And I would probably try to tie it to the character growth. I would make that something as heavy as depression in a story. I think should be used as character building, and that the character might have to find a way to overcome it, or find a way to live with it, or find a way to live through it, and adjust their new situation in life. I do it as part of one facet of a complete character, essentially. The exact circumstances that cause that, that's up to you and your world. So yeah, I hope that's a decent answer. Buttered Circuit, you said, so what your understanding for publishing is to contact publishers and find out which one is interested. Kind of. Thank you for the follows, by the way, everybody. Appreciate you. Buttered Circuit, if you are looking to publish, you need to identify how do you want to publish. Do you want to publish to make money? Do you want to publish just to have people read your writing? That's the first question. If you want to publish just to have people read your writing, I highly recommend websites, fan fiction websites, or web novel websites. That's going to be Archive of Our Own, Wattpad, or Royal Road. Those are the three biggest that I'm aware of. You can make money from them, but they're super accessible if you just want to publish and get people reading your stuff. If you want to publish to try to sell your work, then you're looking at maybe self-publishing through Amazon, or querying small presses or traditional publishing. Let's go with those three. If you're going to self-publish, then you just get your manuscript into the right format, you get a cover, you get some editing done, boom, put it out, publish it. There you go. If you go for small presses, what you're going to do is you're going to look up publishers who are publishing books that you like, that are typically small online publishers, and you will go to their website and see what their query standards are, or submission standards. As long as your manuscript meets their standards, feel free to send it to them and see if they're interested. So you're spot on in that category. If you're going to do traditional publishing, where you're going to go through one of the big 6 publishers, Penguin Random House, etc., etc., what you're going to do is you're going to start with a literary agent. Literary agents are essentially like film agents, except they represent authors, and they are the ones who are going to talk to the publishers with your manuscript. The reason you need them is most big publishing houses do not accept unagented submissions, so you need to first find a literary agent who likes your book and says, yes, I know a publisher that wants this, I want to work with you, let's work together to get it published. And then a literary agent will take 15% of any income you make. In exchange, they will workshop your manuscript with you, get it polished up, and then use their personal connections and knowledge of what publisher is looking for what to attempt to sell your book to a publisher. It is the longest type of publishing, though you could argue it has a higher percentage of success. I think that paradigm might be changing in this day and age. Sorry, that was a really long answer. DS Wald says, I look like I play D&D. Well, you're spot on. I absolutely do. I'm a huge D&D fan. Alicia T, good to see you. I was so focused on my answer. And Slendy as well. Hello, hello. I was so focused on answering that last question, I didn't notice y'all sneak in. Good to see you. How you been? I feel like it's been so long since I missed streams last week being sick. But I'm glad to have you back. Glad to be back. Earth Patch Notes, do I enjoy manga? I haven't read too much of it. I've done graphic novels. But I would like to expand into that more as I read in 2026. Dean, have you read any Darren Shan books? If you have, do you like them? I don't believe so, but I'm just going to Google that real quick and see if... Yep, see, okay. So I have read The Vampire's Assistant. I just didn't remember that was the author. Yeah, I did enjoy that one. It was a long time ago I read it. I've heard good things about Cirque du Freak as well. So I haven't read too many, but those that I have I enjoyed. And I definitely could do with reading some more, I think. Yeah, I do enjoy George Orwell books. They are sad and frightening, but I think important. Eldar, good question. What is the #1 mistake you think people fall for when writing villains? Ooh. Okay. I think the #1 mistake people make when writing villains is making them evil for the sake of being evil. I think we need to think of villains as, in their head, they find themselves to be the main character of the story. The villain is somebody who believes or is compelled to do something so greatly that they are willing to go to any length to do it. Honestly, that's not that different from the main character. It's just that the main character, the hero, we see and understand their perspective and probably align with their values, and we don't align with the values of the villain. But in terms of drive to do what they feel they need to, they're very similar. And the conflict should come from the villain feeling they have to do this and get to this point, and the hero has to do this and get to this point, and they collide in the middle. It's the classic immovable object meets an unstoppable force. It's the same thing. The villain's plan should be to get to here, the hero's plan should be to get to here. They collide in the middle, and that is where the conflict comes from. So I think we should write villains like main characters that we just don't agree with. They are the hero of their own story in their own head. They've just gone to lengths that we don't support. Uski said, I want to make a villain. How do I make the villain interesting? Oh, well, I feel like I just kind of answered that. Treat your villain like a hero that is misunderstood, or that is so confident in their belief of what they have to do that they don't care what anybody else thinks, and that leads them to do villainous things because they are assured internally that they are in the right and they are doing what they have to do. Yingario said, I'm making a fantasy world. Still making the world, though, going for a theme in the number 10. Thoughts? I'm not sure what you're asking. You said you're going for a theme in the number 10. Thoughts? I'm not sure what you mean there. Can you clarify for me? I'll try to get you an answer. Sid, is Thrag a good villain? I'm not sure who Thrag is. Are they someone that I should know from something? The Google search says they're the primary antagonist of the Invincible comic books. Just from a quick Google, that looks like... No, I don't want to give any spoilers. I've not watched too much of Invincible. I watched season 1, not read the comics. So I think I know that character. I'm not entirely certain. I don't want to do any spoilers, but I don't think I know enough about them to say if they're a good villain or not. What is my favorite paradox? I'm not sure I have a favorite paradox. Not something I've thought a lot about. Joe T, you said your first novel is like an old fantasy / deep cosmic style book. Any tips for pacing and world building? Well, I'm not sure what you mean by like deep cosmic, but old fantasy. Are you saying like an older fantasy, like 60s, 70s, 80s style of fantasy, or are you saying a fantasy book that is very ancient in its scope of time? Nonetheless, no matter what, I think pacing is important to... I like books that have fast pacing, that keep me turning pages. That's my personal preference. Pacing is going to come down to what you enjoy and what sort of reader you want to attract. Some enjoy longer books that are sprawling, longer narratives that you sit down and take your time with. Others enjoy Dan Brown-esque page turners that you flip through super quick. That depends on how you pace your book, depends on the audience you're looking for, and I think most of all, how you enjoy reading. I think folks that enjoy page turners enjoy writing them, and folks that enjoy reading slower books enjoy writing those as well. Thank you for the follows, by the way, everybody. I appreciate you. Millie, good to see you. Welcome back. Hope you're doing well. Good to have you. Happy Monday to you. Pooh, am I from Viva La Dirt League? I am not. I have no association. Din da Din. Is that like a play on the anime? Dan? I'm vaguely aware of it. Anyway, you asked, should I try making a character a fan favorite than killing them in the most brutal way possible? Personally, no. I think that there is an over-fascination with killing off characters and causing emotional pain to the audience. It's not a bad thing. It can be good in the right circumstances. The problem is the majority of readers read a book, listen to a story, enjoy a story to be satisfied. They want a satisfying conclusion. Killing beloved characters is not satisfying. Can it be meaningful? Absolutely. Can it be dramatic? Always. But it's a risk. You shouldn't just kill characters for a cheap emotional rise. You should do it when the story demands it, or it is necessary for character growth for other characters, or to progress the plot. Basically, there should be good, important reasons that you do it that are not just, ooh, the fans love this one. If I kill this character off, they'll be really sad about it. There needs to be more logic to it than just that. It should always serve the story first. Um, Bliss, you said favorite power or magic system, in my opinion. Um, so this is outside of books. Um, I really love how magic works in Magic the Gathering. I love the color division of Magic. I love how two color works. I love the value system and the traits associated with each color. I just think that's a really approachable, power system, even though it's not really in a book. Um, so yeah. Um, Fast Fart, you said, but am I asking a successful author? Well, I've been writing full time since 2018. Here's a lot of my book ones. They're all linked in my bio. I have been writing full time for 7 years now, and have more books coming. So, successful? Yeah, I'd say so. As successful as I'd like to be? Certainly not. I could make more money in other jobs, but I love this work, and always trying to get better at it. Um, Colby, you said, what's the best way to go about writing? You've got a whole verse, a story. It's just so much. Where do you start? Start with what is the most interesting point in the story to you. Think about what scene you want to write the most and start there. You can always go back and write more that happened before it, and you can always continue and write what happens next. But I think the most important thing in writing is you have to write to entertain yourself before anybody else. Readers can tell when an author was having fun when they wrote. The writing just has a better quality to it. It's almost like the emotion that you're experiencing when you write is like imbued in the text. That sounds hokey and real and ridiculous. I can't really explain it, but readers can tell when you enjoyed what you were writing. So write to entertain yourself first and the audience second. Adam, you said, for what age are my books? They are all fine for pretty much any age, except for maybe these two right here. I wouldn't go below like 13 years old maybe for them, just because they can be a little bit graphic at times. They're a little bit intense. This one's like a Jurassic Park thriller, so a lot of people running from big hungry beasties. And this one is more like Dragon Ball Z, but a little more intense at times. So I wouldn't have like really young kids read those, but by and large, all of my books are friendly for any age, though I do call them adult fiction. And they're all linked in my bio. They're available pretty much anywhere books are sold, so please feel free to check them out. I would appreciate it. Supports me in the stream. Tony, 2 times. Did you go to school to help your writing? So I did. I have 2 degrees, one in media communication studies and another in creative writing. I do not think that you should go to school for writing. At least my degree did not benefit me greatly. I think that my time would have been just as well, probably better spent, reading a ton of books that were selling in those 4 years, what was hot and popular then, and then just writing nonstop. I think the beauty of writing is you can get really good at it simply by reading a lot of books and writing a lot of stories. It's truly a hard work pays off type scenario. I don't think there's anything wrong with going to school for writing. I just don't think it's necessary. Jensen, any romantasy recs that have strong plot and character development? I don't read a lot of romantasy. Yeah, I really probably couldn't give you any recommendations there. I don't read a lot of it. I probably need to read a little bit more. But that's a little outside my preferred wheelhouse. I apologize, Jensen. One of my good friends has a romantasy coming out later this year. So I will be shouting about that when it does, and hopefully reading an advanced copy. We'll see. So I'll let you know how that one is. Joe T, how do I feel about the Wings of Fire books? I'm not sure that I know those. Let me Google them real quick. Yeah, I have not read these. Their covers look cool. A lot of the covers look cool. But I've not read those, unfortunately, so I couldn't give you an opinion on them other than cover look good. Pop Dude says, do I like Eren Yeager, and if so, why? I liked Eren more so early on in the series. For those that don't know, this is a question about, oh boy, the name just, Attack on Titan, there we go. I wanted to say Shadows of the Colossus, which most certainly is not, but I guess similar vibes, you know? I liked Aaron more early on in the series. Spoilers, I guess. I apologize. I feel like he lost his way as things went on, but I also think that was intentional. So I liked his early character, but I think he lost his way, and I think that's good storytelling and very interesting. But I didn't prefer him by the end. Chewy Chew over on Video App, as well as Atharva Kumbahalker. I'm sure I said that wrong. I apologize. We'll start with Athar. You said best literary fiction, in your opinion. I don't read a lot of literary fiction. I really don't care for it as a genre. I apologize. I couldn't give you any recs there. It's just not. It's outside my wheelhouse. Chewy Chew, you said, how do you write horror, especially an uncanny vibe? It seems way simpler in movies, but how do you transfer that to books? The trick to horror is in setting expectations, scary, frightening expectations, and then drawing out the moment until they are met. You want to establish frightening thoughts and ideas, walk the character into situations where they will encounter those ideas, but make it take a long time to do so. Make us think that, like, you know, the scary thing is right around the corner, and take a long time to get to that corner and draw out those moments of tension. That's my kind of quick guide to writing horror. Going for an uncanny vibe's a little bit different. For that, I think that you need things to feel familiar but a bit off. That's kind of the trick to uncanny. You want it to, like, think about like Coraline. Coraline, the world that she goes into, where everybody has, everybody's, the button eyes and all that thing. It's similar to her real world, and it's initially what she wanted, but it's all just a little bit off. I think that's a perfect uncanny vibe. So that might be a good way to do it. I don't write that much horror. I do more thriller if I verge into that territory, though, so I'm not an expert on that. All right, y'all. I'm gonna go for like 5 more minutes here. So I apologize if I missed your question. Please do ask it again if I missed it. I do want to answer it. We're gonna try to rapid fire out 5 more minutes worth of questions, and then I gotta get to writing. The sequel to this book right here is due at the end of the month, and we're steaming ahead towards it. So I gotta get some progress on that. But until then, we got a couple more minutes of questions. Let's see. Yingario, you said your fantasies themes are in the number 10, mainly, e.g. 10 races. I'm asking, is it doable to do 10 POVs in a story? Doable, yes. Approachable, probably not. It's going to be hard to write. It's going to be a little bit hard to read. I wouldn't stick to that purely for thematic reasons. Don't stick to it just because that's kind of your theme. I would focus on making it approachable and entertaining first, and then thematic second. Because no one's going to appreciate the theme if they don't enjoy the book off the bat. I also don't recommend starting with too many point of view characters early on in your career. It's hard to do. I would stick to 1 to 3 early on, personally. Ella May said, who is my favorite fantasy character, and what do I like about them? Ooh, favorite fantasy character. I'm going to go with... Oh boy, that's tough. I'm going to go with Inquisitor Sandan Glocta from Joe Abercrombie's First Law trilogy and beyond. And he's my favorite character because he is incredibly challenging. You want to root for him, even as he becomes a more and more evil character. And even as you start to understand that he does that for specific reasons, and perhaps for the greater good, you still find yourself cheering for him, but also questioning why. I think that's an incredible thing for an author to do. Make you like and cheer for a character who is objectively a pretty bad person. It's very interesting. Second that with Baez, the wizard, in that series as well. I also love similar plot with him. From 0 to 3rd says, or 0 to 3D said, do deadlines produce a sense of urgency or anxiety? How does this affect the writing? Yeah, it definitely, deadlines definitely cause anxiety, a bit of urgency. It's really, though, most deadlines can be moved, and there are consequences for it. Perhaps the consequences the book is going to be published later. You might annoy a publisher or an editor, strain a relationship a little bit. Largely, deadlines can be moved once, maybe twice, but it's kind of, in my opinion, unprofessional to move a deadline. So I always try to meet them as best I can. And I think the trick to that is to get ahead early. Try not to be, if you know you need to write a chapter a day, try to get ahead of that pace. Because there's always going to be hiccups in the storyline. That being said, I try not to let deadlines affect the writing very much. I've never really rushed the end of a book because of a deadline, because deadlines can always be moved. But it's really just practice. It's kind of like running a 5K in that you know you have a certain distance you need to run, so you don't want to burn yourself out too early. But even if you are burned out, you do know the finish line's right there, and that helps you push through those last, 100 meters or whatever. Deadlines feel similar. If you have like 10 chapters left and you're behind, knowing that you're just 10 chapters from the end can help you get that second wind and push through. So they're kind of a blessing and a curse, I think. Coach Kyle, good to see you, buddy. Welcome in. Been a minute. How you doing, man? Y'all, Coach Kyle is one of my OG followers. Day one. Been here since. Good to see you, man. I hope you're doing good. On Video App, Cal said, have you read 2666 by Roberto Bolano? I have not. Apologize. There's a lot of books in the world. Tall asked, for a cosmic horror book, how do you write the first chapter as a slow burn without it being boring? So I think that boring doesn't mean nothing, or like slow burn doesn't mean nothing happens. Every chapter should be a short story in and of itself, where characters have things they want, they take steps towards achieving those, they encounter obstacles stopping them from achieving them. It doesn't have to be grand things, they're not saving the world every chapter, but there should be things the character want because we are rooting for the character. Excuse me. So seeing them make progress or strive towards things they want or need is what keeps the story interesting. So even if your book is going slow, it's a slow burn book, there should still be mini objectives, M-I-N-I, mini objectives that the character is trying to reach each chapter. I think that will keep people hooked even if the plot itself is slower and takes a while to get there. Also, slow burn books can be some of the most satisfying. Tim Silva says, what do I think of the Wandering Inn writer? They write so much. I envy their output. They are an incredible author in terms of just sheer word count. I thought that might happen. We are having the roof replaced today, and you might be able to hear. They are sawing through my roof presently, so that's probably going to have to be it for me today, folks. Thank you very much for the questions. I will be back on Friday. I got to take Wednesday off as I'll be traveling. But Friday I will be back. I hope to see you all again. And on Fridays, we do Fantasy Map Friday. You can still ask me questions. Always happy to answer. But mainly on Friday, we will be making fantasy maps live on stream. So please do tune in. Love to have you for that. Otherwise, if I can talk over the sounds of my roof being ripped off, thank you for being here, y'all. Please do check out my books. They're linked in my bio. If you like them, let me know. Give them a read. They support me. They keep the stream going. And I got to get to working on more of them and trying to write through the sounds of the roof being destroyed. So anyway, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate all your questions. I appreciate the engagement. And as always, a big thank you to Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com for the use of his songs Farm, Manor, Cottages, and Northern Glade, which have provided our background music today. As well, a special thanks to community member Raffi the Engineer, who composed our 5th background song, Midnight at the Round Table. Raffi, appreciate you, buddy. Thank you. As always, a shout out to my excellent moderators, Melissa Lee 28, Raffi the Engineer, One Happy Harpy, The Seth Word, Other Name Wasn't Available, aka Slendy, Leisha T, and Aaron Winnick. I appreciate y'all coming in and moderate and chat. Always good to have you, but always good to have chat as well, who doesn't need much moderation. I appreciate your vibes, y'all. You bring a good vibe every stream. It's a nice, chill way to start the week. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here, everybody. I will see you next time. Until then, be excellent to each other, and I'll see you then. Peace out.